On this afternoon, we gathered together to share memories of Verna, to remember her here in the breadth of Temple Beth Torah, home to her and Herman for many, many decades, and to be embraced by family, friends, and community. It's fitting that today's memorial service for Verna Douglas Kagan brings together family members and relatives, lawyers and those who work in legal services, temple members, friends new and old. Verna Kagan was one of those two rare women who touched the lives of people, who opened her heart to people, and who received in return the love of others. In her down-to-earth way, Verna was the real deal, and people knew that about her. You knew that about her. So we gather to remember her today because she was exceptional and she was beloved. For her family, for her children, Ken and Batya, this day is marked by a sorrow, a sadness, at moments accepting of her death and at moments perhaps a bit in disbelief. For it was at the beginning of this past summer that family was gathered together with a vivacious, energetic Verna, celebrating her 80th birthday with a very special party. How could it be then, they wondered at the end of August, that her health could be declining so very quickly, that she could be this kind of ill? Verna was working through the beginning of August, and this, as we now know, was really her blessing. As difficult as it might be for us to accept her death, we are comforted that she lived actively, engaged in all that she loved up until the last few weeks of life. That is the Verna that we will hold in our hearts and in our memories. Verna with her beloved grandchildren, Jacob and Sarah, Verna walking the dog, Verna working with legal services for those in need, Verna laughing at the antics of her beloved Herman. That is who we remember today. What is so exceptional about Verna is that as a young woman, she made a choice about her life, about the kind of person she wanted to be, about what she would value in the world, about her inner character. At some level, each one of us has experiences that mold us into who we will be. I think of my favorite Robert Frost poem, "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear." Verna chose the path not urged by her family, a path that might have led her to a very different kind of life. Born in Washington, D.C., she was an only child, raised by an affluent single mother after her physician father and her mother divorced. Rose Riskin Douglas, her mom, brought Verna to Los Angeles, where Rose's brothers were successful screenwriters and Hollywood executives. Verna went to Hollywood High School. Her mom had very certain plans of financial security for Verna and a desire for her to marry well. Well, Verna did marry well to her beloved Herman of 56 years. But it wasn't exactly the marry well that her mother Rose had in mind. In her down-to-earth way, Verna made a decision about money, about happiness, about materialism, about being taken care of rather than taking care of others. You know the road she chose. Verna started college at a private women's college in Columbia, Missouri, Stevens College. And it was there that she met Herman, a graduate student in psychology at the University of Missouri, also in Columbia. They met at the Jewish Students' Organization, the Hillel. But Stevens was a two-year college, so Verna transferred to UCLA. And by virtue of the fact that she was a ballet dancer, she found herself in the physical education department, training to be a PE instructor. Herman, now graduated, was drafted in 1955, and they kept up a deep and insightful correspondence during those years. When he returned home to New Jersey from overseas, they arranged to meet in New York City, and the rest, they say, is history, right? They were married in 1958, and they set up their first home in Arizona, spending 4 years there at the university as Herman earned his doctorate. And it was there that daughter Batya was born. The family returned to Los Angeles in 1963. Ken was born to Arizona. Herman found himself carpooling to Camarillo every day. He was working with the California Youth Authority. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not certain whether it was the long schlep from LA that did it to him, or whether it was the two coworkers who chatted back and forth day in and day out on this long car ride back and forth, LA Camarillo, LA Camarillo. But finally, Herman had the wise idea that living in Ventura would make his commute time much shorter. And so in 1963, they did move here to Ventura, a move that we know was a perfect move for them and for us as well. Ken and Batya will tell you that their mom was a great kind of mom to grow up with. She was there for them. She ran the house, had friends over. Everyone was welcome. It was an upbeat, fun home. And there was definitely this balance between their dad, who is quite a character, unpretentious, filled with humor, and their mom, who still had in her some of the reserve and proper etiquette that so carefully was honed by her mother when she was a young woman. This in itself just gave Herman and Ken and Batya uncountable hours of jest and provocation, and simply the opportunity to just get their mother's goat. They would tease her about being a mother duck, and then when she would call out to them in public, they would respond by quacking. Safety conscious? She was. Overprotective mom? Yep, she was. Loving and always there? Check. Always there. Batya says that even when their mom went back to school, she made sure that she was always where the kids needed her to be. Never dropped any balls. She really did balance home and professional life, taking care of clients, but getting Kenny to bowling practice on time and Batya to ballet class on time. How did she do it? As a young couple, Herman and Verna joined Temple Beth Torah, raising their kids along with a group of other young families. Ken and Batya spent years here, and Verna became one of our most active and giving volunteers. She helped Rabbi Block. She helped June Brackrock, who ran the office. It was Verna who brought them to religious school on Sundays. And because of Mom, that Ken and Batya learned how to work the mimeograph machine and got to stay extra special later than everybody else because they were helping out in the office. For them, TBT was home away from home. And for TBT, we were and always are grateful for volunteers like Verna, who give of their heart and their soul, their time and their energy to keep everything afloat. She truly understood the value of what a dedicated worker could accomplish, and perhaps fed that commitment to what dedicated volunteers to accomplish in helping others. And it was in those years that Verna began to listen to another call. While being a stay-at-home mom was the overwhelming norm in the 1970s, she recognized her passion for the law. Any woman who finds herself reading Supreme Court decisions rather than Red Book and Family Circle might consider that law might actually be for her. And with Herman's great encouragement, she applied to the Ventura School of Law when Batya and Ken were 15 and 13 years old. She made some wonderful colleagues there in those days and over the years as well. The women who were part of the college in those days truly were pioneers, helping to turn the opinion of men in the legal world, making certain that the work they did was twice as good so that they might get half the recognition. Verna earned her JD in 1977. Verna loved her family law work. Herman and her family claimed that there were times that she came home paid in fresh vegetables and fruit baskets. Money was not her pursuit in law. Justice was. Verna retired 21 years ago from the law. Not coincidentally, so did Herman. And it happened that grandson Jacob is 21 years old. They retired to be able to be full-time grandparents just as soon as Jacob was born. But as you and I know, Verna believed in law. She believed in the work to be done, and about 10 years ago returned to the active law to manage the pro bono section of the Ventura County Bar. Was there a lawyer or judge in Ventura County who didn't know and respect Verna? And this is the work that she continued right up until last month. Over the years, Verna has been honored for her work. But if I know Verna, I think she felt the honor was in getting to do the work, to advocate on behalf of those who needed a voice or a friend, a caring lawyer. Verna was passionate. She was committed to politics, to social justice. She inspired us. I said that Verna was able to successfully balance her life. Ken actually commented to me last week that it was rather remarkable that his parents, both of whom had grown up without fathers, had created such a healthy, loving, wonderful home life for him and Batya. Herman, we saw that Verna's happiness was an extension of the relationship that the two of you had, your incredible love and support for each other. You were each other's best friends, loved to spend time together. You loved to camp and made sure that almost every year the tent came out and you guys got out hiking, and certainly that happened when the kids were little, and then without the kids once they grew up and were on their own. The two of you generated the warm, open spirit of family. A childhood friend of Kenny's wrote me these words. He wrote, "If my home was the radio equivalent of easy listening, the Kagan home was the coolest kind of jazz improv, a little chaos mixed with spontaneity and joy. There was the unwavering downbeat of unconditional love for the children from the parents. And I always felt that Verna and Herman extended that love to all the rest of us kids who were around in their house." For Verna, her love for her children extended to include her daughter-in-law, Lupe, and Michael as well, and Lupe's extended family. Verna's life was incredibly rich. It was rich in love, it was rich in friendship, it was rich in meaningful work. And the truth is, it's never easy to let go of beloved people. Harder still when that step from vibrancy to demise is so very quick. Verna's energy and her vitality still linger in our hearts and our memories. My prayer is that for her family and for her friends, Verna's memory abides for a long time. For she reminds us of a life well lived, a life lived with purpose, with love, with kindness. She reminds us of the right path taken. Zichrona Livracha, may her memory always be a blessing. Amen. I'd like to share with you words that Ken wrote about his mother today. And I'm honored to be able to share Ken's words on his behalf. Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one person in her time plays many parts." Mom, I'm here to say you played each part in life with love, humanity, grace, and chutzpah. You played your role as a wife to a T. How often does a girl raised with a silver spoon marry a man with no money who is still completing school? My mom not only married him, but supported him. She traded in lavish vacations for camping in the national forest in a tent and loved every minute of it. 56 years of enjoying a half-crazy man and laughing all the way through it. Yours was a marriage from the heart that only got better year after year. You starred in your role as mom, the overprotective Jewish mother. My childhood was a joy. You loved me, smothered me, and protected me as only a mother could do. So much so that I nicknamed you Mother Duck. Anytime I needed to find you in a crowded place, I would quack instead of calling out Mom. You loved being Mother Duck, and you even enjoyed the quacking. You were not only a mother to myself and my sister, but you were also a mother to all the living things that we brought into the house. Dogs and cats and rabbits, hamsters, birds. You name it, and each creature loved you the most, Mom. You never got upset when I asked you things as a child, like, did you vote for George Washington? I broke many neighbors' windows, accidentally, of course, and we always confronted them together. You cursed me by telling me to stay away from motorcycles, and of course, the first time I rode my friend's bike, I crashed. You also proclaimed during my teenage, in other words, jerky years, that one day you hoped that I would have children that acted just like me, and now I do. On the bright side, Mom, I never poked my eye out as you predicted many, many times. Your final role was the ultimate role, the role you always wanted to play, and then went out and got a standing ovation. That role was the role of Bubby. You were no longer Mrs. Kagan, Verna, or even Mom by anyone in the family. We all called you Bubby, and that was the purest compliment. My kids were so fortunate that they had the ultimate weapon in the Bubby. With the Bubby on their side, magic would happen. In other words, spoiling. The Bubby made sure that the grandkids would feel loved and protected while my wife and I worked. You were there for every game, award, graduation, and party. Thank you, Mom, for playing that role with so much love and for loving to play that role. You were such a natural, a star, and I wish you could take a curtain call that you so richly deserve. Thank you, Ken. Beautiful words for your mother. I'd like to invite Batya to muster the courage to come forward and share some memories of her mother.
It's a good thing there's a small step here. They have steps for short people, that's good. Oh, this is intimidating. for Mom, the things you taught me. We baked chocolate chip cookies together, and you always let me lick the spoon. Jigsaw puzzles spread over a card table in the dining room, harder and more pieces every year. Do the edges, look for patterns. We worked on a mosaic table, and I learned to cut the pieces just the right size with angles to make beauty. You taught me how to eat artichokes, one leaf at a time, and to savor the heart. You and Dad had faith that we could learn to play bridge at ages 8 and 10. I liked being on your team, watching you dance with the cards like a triumphant ballerina as you played the last trick to win. You showed me the value of being a volunteer. Working in the temple office, it became my second home. Everyone would greet us. June Brackrog always gave a hug and something useful to do. You took great pleasure in the feisty spirit you passed on to me. My kicking you out of the co-op nursery school and staging a picket line in 5th grade. Then I did you the disservice of staying out late as a teen and worrying you sick. I'm sorry. You impressed us all by passing the bar the very first time, showing what perseverance can do. You showed respect to all creatures of the furry kind. I taught you how to grow a garden and eat our own homegrown tomatoes, and I was proud to give something back. We took many walks where I worked to keep up. Even at 80, you had a full stride. Then suddenly it all changed. I found myself holding your oxygen machine as we walked with slow, measured steps, stopping to let you catch the breath that the cancer had stolen away. And now I sit in your hospital room with the oxygen fountain bubbling away and the strange smells of sour and antiseptic while I hold your hand to pray for the courage to watch you slip away from us. But I learned how precious and how unpredictable each hour is. I learned that stomach aches can mean I'm scared. I learned how many people are needed to help someone heal. I learned how beautiful you are, how much kindness you've shown to so many people. I learned I can be proud of who my family is. Laughter and loyalty, woodsy and wise. And now I'm learning to say goodbye.
Thank you, Batya. We find comfort in these words from Proverbs 31. Eshet chayil mi yimtza, a woman of valor, seek her out. She is to be valued above rubies. She opens her hand to those in need and offers her help to the poor. Adorned with strength and dignity, we find comfort in these words from Proverbs 31. Eshet chayil mi yimtza, a woman of valor, seek her out. She is to be valued above rubies. She opens her hand to those in need and offers her help to the poor. Adorned with strength and dignity, she looks to the future with cheerful trust. Her speech is wise, and the law of kindness is on her lips. Those who love her rise up with praise and call her blessed. Many women have done well, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is short-lived, but a woman loyal to God has truly earned praise. Honor her for her work. Her life proclaims her praise. And indeed, Verna's life and her work. Rise up to praise her. I'm delighted to ask Carmen Ramirez to come forward and offer some words from a professional perspective on our friend Verna.
Good afternoon. It is a privilege and an honor to be here speaking about my friend and colleague, Verna Kagan. And I was so delighted, if I can use that word, that Herman asked me to be here. And I'm also here on behalf of Steve Henderson, our Bar Executive Director, and all of the staff who are here present to speak on their behalf. There are a lot of people in the audience who knew and worked with Verna. She called many of us lawyers up and cajoled us into taking pro bono cases, and I did take a lot from her, and I think a lot of you did too. It was hard to say no to Verna. I actually met her when she was practicing law years ago before she went to work for the bar, and we were sometimes on opposite sides of the case, but I got to know her and like her and respect her, and she's a very good advocate for her clients. But our relationship changed after I spent years running the legal aid program, Channel County's Legal Services. Then I went to work for the court in the Colonia in Oxnard. Our customers, as we like to say, were Spanish-speaking people of very low income, very low means, and they didn't have any other place to go. Many times, no other resources were available except the Volunteer Lawyers Program, and Verna was running it. So I sent her lots of people, tried to work with her and finding the appropriate attorney. And then I went into private practice, so it was my turn to do the work that many of my colleagues were doing. And Verna was really good about knowing when to call and what to push. But many times we would talk about what a particular client needed. It wasn't always going to court or even getting a lawyer. Sometimes it was a therapist. Sometimes it was just coming to terms with their situation. And Verna was really good at giving people that firm and gentle advice on how to proceed with their lives, that the answer wasn't always in the courtroom. I want to say that in particular, she was, and this is on behalf of Steve and the bar staff in particular, she was a delight to work with, but she had certain habits that sometimes caused Steve in particular to try to play some tricks on her. I think some of you know she was a stickler for punctuality. She was going to be there at 9 o'clock every single day that she worked. And I understand you could set the clock by her, right? One day, Mr. Henderson decided to play a trick on her, and he set the clock ahead 15 minutes. So when she came in, he tried to convince her that she'd come late, and she was aghast. And he had to confess that he had pranked her, and she was very relieved. I understand she also fed the staff, bought all kinds of goodies from home, and tried to keep everybody well fed. I'm just going to quote a couple of things here from some of the accolades that we saw on the bar's web page or Facebook. Laura Bartels, our current president, said, "Verna was a passionate advocate, tenacious for what was right, gentle, kind and caring and funny, generous, tireless, gracious, and always had dog treats with her." You're right, she loved her furry companions. Steve Henderson, in particular, said, "She was a bright, sweet, and beautiful presence in the office, and she will be missed." You know, when you don't see somebody for a while, but you know they're there, I know that's how we're going to feel about Verna. She's still there, and her presence will be felt. Her good works will be remembered. She was recognized by the bar in 2012, and she received this praise from Judge Vincent O'Neill, who was a presiding judge. On behalf of the bench officers, as well as the court's entire staff, it is my pleasure to commend and thank you for your stellar career and tireless pro bono work. Your trailblazing career as a practitioner was characterized by integrity and informed by your varied life experiences. In recent years, your leadership has inspired a sense of service to those in need of legal assistance. Of course, Judge O'Neill was right. Verna, you inspired us. You make lawyers look good. Not always easy to do. We thank you for that. We will try to live up to the highest ideals of the life you led at home and in the office. Verna, we'll miss you.
And finally, I'd like to invite Herman to come forward and share some words of poetry he's written.
I also have to stand up on this thing. Memorial to Verna. My dearest, darling Verna, you loved with all your soul. You were the inspiration to keep our family whole. You fought with many demons to lift your self-esteem. Even divorced, fighting parents could not block your dream. We met while in college and took to each other fast, but wondered after college if our attraction would really last. After my Army stint was over, we met again and then could see that staying together forever was really meant to be. So we married in LA, despite your mother groaner, then left on our honeymoon on our way to Arizona. While I studied hard at school, our daughter Bacha arrived. Our teamwork was great, and our marriage really thrived. After many years at school, while you mothered every day, I got a psychology internship, and we drove back to LA. Should we stay in LA? We were greatly torn, because by that time, our son Ken was born. We finally moved to Ventura. We bought a house with much glee. I finally finished my dissertation and got my PhD. When you practice motherhood, find skills that you employ. As Ken and Bacha grew, they were your pride and joy. You were a great protector and helped when they got stuck. You always swam to their rescue, so Ken called you Mother Duck. We loved to go tent camping, and this became our creed. We walked many wilderness trails, with you always in the lead. You also became involved in the Temple Sisterhood. When you became the president, everyone knew where you stood. Then you dreamed of a law career. We saw a shining star. So off you went to law school, and on the first try, passed the bar. You set up a private practice. Family law was your forte. You helped many families when they could hardly pay. When you retired, you sparkled like a western tanager. I don't know if you know about that bird. It's a beautiful bird. You flew to the bar's pro bono program and then became the manager. Tanager manager, so they can mind. You mothered this program for more than a decade. You were praised and loved by all and earned the highest grade. Suddenly, your body grew weak and your energy was gone. Even though your body gave out, your loving spirit still lives on. My dearest, darling Verna, in my heart, you stand so tall. You were an inspiration. You'll be greatly missed by all. While I can't touch your body or have your eyes to gaze upon, I can still feel your presence and can't believe you're gone. You left behind a lesson. Don't get lost in your future or your past. You could really cherish today because tomorrow could be your last.
Esai nai el harim, v'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezrimim Adonai oseh shemayim va'aretz. Psalm 121, I lift my eyes to the hills. Where will I find my help? My help is in the Eternal One, maker of heaven and earth. We remember Verna in our own way, each of us with stories and memories we hold dear. We take from her life and her example, inspiration to move us forward. We honor her in memory. We surround her family with love and care. And we grant her a piece of immortality by taking her best qualities into our own lives and making them our own. In just a moment, I'm going to invite you to stand so I might chant the memorial prayer that is traditionally said at the end of Jewish services, and then a Kaddish prayer as well, which you'll find in the prayer books that are in front of you if you'd like to join us. But what I'd like to invite you to do is when we conclude our service in here in just a few moments, I'd like to invite you to join the Kagan family in our social hall right behind the sanctuary for two reasons. First of all, as community to surround them and to extend your sympathies. There is no greater time of need for community than at the time of loss. And you as community bring them strength and courage today. And the other reason to stay for just a bit is that there's a tradition that invites us to have a little something to eat after we've talked about death, after we've lost someone, in such a way to move from death back to life. And what better way to affirm life than to eat, right? So we hope that you will stay and be with us for a bit this afternoon. Let me invite you, please, to rise, if you will, for this memorial prayer. remembering our very dear and beloved Verna. El malei rachamim shochen bamromim Amtzei menucha nachona tachat kanfei hashechina im kedoshim utohorim Kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishma Shoshana Batros shehalcha la'olama bal harachamim yastireha besater Kinafav lo olamim Vayitzror bitzror hachayim Et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata Vatanuach b'shalom al mishkavaha v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Verna Kagan, Shoshana, the daughter of Rose, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we join together in saying, Amen. Our final prayer, our Kaddish prayer, if you would like to join us, this prayer can be found in the prayer books in the pews in front of you, in that Mishkan Tefillah blue prayer books, on page 598. This is a prayer in Aramaic, but you'll find transliterated letters there as well. In Kaddish, we give thanks to God even as we remember our loved one. We extol and magnify God's name and give thanks for the gift of life. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbi Be'alma Divra Chirutei V'amlich Malchutei B'chai Echon Uv'yom Echon Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala V'zman Kariv V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbi Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeid kudesha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn. May God bring comfort to the Kagan family at a time of loss and bereavement. May we be there to surround them and help them at this time of loss. Amen. Let me invite you to be seated for just a moment. I want to give a thank you to Mr. Michael Boyko from Reardon Funeral Home and Mortuary. And we'll conclude our memorial service today again in our social hall. So I'd like to invite Verna's immediate family, if you'd like to exit the sanctuary first so that you can be in the social hall and able to greet people at this time. May we all be blessed in our comings and goings from this time forth and forever. May we come together again soon for joyous events and good experiences, good times together.